What's up, Internet? You're tuned into a very special episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. We are here to react to PlayStation's May 2024 State of Play, the first unofficial event of the 2024 Summer Game Fest, which is why I broke out last year's Summer Game Fest background for us on this episode. We'll see if I update it with some new assets for this year once they're all set in stone. But I wanted to hop right into it and get this one out for you guys as soon as possible. We're gonna cover this one like we have the last couple of years, where we'll start with the most exciting, most hype stuff up front, and then we'll get into some of the other announcements as they trickle through, just so we can make sure we focus our energy on the stuff we're most excited to talk about and that you're most excited to hear about, I would guess. So I am, of course, joined by my brother in PlayStation love, Mr. Ken Hicks. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
What it do, y'all?
It's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yo, the second I heard State of Play, I hit up Pete. I was like, "Hey, yo, listen, we gotta go.
We gotta make this happen." And it's perfect because it is the dead middle of the night right now for our friends Steve and Max. So I couldn't have a more perfect partner for today. And if it weren't for you, I'd be alone. So this is a win-win for me as far as I'm concerned.
Yo, listen, sleep tight, Kings. Me and Pete got this.
We got it. So I wanna just let's start with the thumbnail, right? Astrobot is back. We got a brand new Astrobot game, appropriately titled Astrobot. It is bucking in exactly the way that I said that I thought they were lying when PlayStation said that they didn't have any titles in any of their major IP planned for the rest of the year. A lot of people got very, very nervous about that meant that there were no other games coming. Of course, after that, there were plenty of rumors, mostly coming from Jeff Grubb, talking about, like, I'm still hearing that this game exists, that it's coming in 2024. I don't know what that means, but here it is. It's real. We can all take a breath. There will be at least one more PlayStation game out this year.
and you know, this year has been pretty top heavy, I feel like, as far as games goes. Like, we had Helldivers, we had Final Fantasy VII Remake. So it's good to know in, like, just over, what is it, 3 months?
Yeah.
We're getting new Astrobot. Like, yo, let's go. Like,
also, really cool to see such a short turnaround between the announcement, the reveal of it, and then it's out. Like, it's not a thing we have to wait years for.
Exactly. Unlike certain games, Kingdom Hearts 4. I got some issues with that one.
Oh, please. I'm a Dragon Age fan. I have a meme all teed up to go up on our TikTok about how hard it is to sit around waiting for Dragon Age news. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, but like, no, I loved the like free tech demo that was almost like a mini game that came with the PlayStation 5. I remember just doing speed run challenges, trying to one up my friends. And if they bring that mode back in this game, I mean, you're cooked.
That's the thing, right? Like, that game was phenomenal. Like, for what it is as like a pack-in tech demo or whatever, it far exceeds that, right? Like, that is a solid 3-hour 3D platformer. And it's definitely not giving you the level of depth that you'd want from a full game, but the level of quality of what's there was so high that I think so many of us were like, what do we got to do to get a full-length Astrobot game? Like, who do we got to, whose palms do we got to grease? Who do we got to kill? And whatever, Dark Lords needed to be appeased, we got it, right? Like, they survived, Japan studio going under, Team Asobi still thriving, making Astrobot games. So I think we gotta take a W where we can get one, folks. This is great news.
Exactly. And the trailer itself was just full of joy and thumping music.
The music! Oh my god! The music in that game was so good, and the new track was really fresh. Like,
Yeah, like, everything I loved about the original tech demo is like this on crack with this game. I'm not sure if it'll be a full price $70 game. I feel like they might release this as a $50, John, or $40, similar to Helldivers.
I don't know. Like, I guess it depends, right? Because it's like, obviously Ratchet was like a full price game, but that's
a little different. They have a little different.
It's like there's cutscenes and it's narrative driven, and so it's like this. I could see maybe coming in at like more of like that $40 to $50 like budget range. But I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the length of the game and like the depth of that experience. Because I think getting people to spend $70 on something like this might feel like a tall order. But I mean,
like, if they going from a free included game to a $70 release, that might rub some people the wrong way. I'll pay $70 for
I
it.
think it's just got to come down to quality, right? Quality's got to be there,
Yeah,
and like again, it's got to be a deep experience that has a lot to offer. And like, I don't want to sit here and say that oh, like certain genres of game are not worth a certain amount of money. To
you know
me,
what?
it's like
Fair,
because think
fair.
about it, like Mario Odyssey was a $60 title, right? And to me, that never felt like it didn't live up to that budget. So who's to
True.
say? I mean, do I hope it's a more entry level cost? I hope so because I think that'll give it a better chance at popping off and kind of cementing Astrobot as an IP for Sony. But I mean, either way, honestly, like you said it while we were watching this together, like this is a day oneer for me. It's coming out
You want instant.
September 6th. Like I'm in on this for sure.
Yo, I already have it in my calendar. And also, another thing I loved about this trailer, the original tech demo for Astrobot was a love letter to PlayStation history,
Yes,
and this is very much continuing that. It's
totally.
like rest in peace, Little Big Planet. Welcome back, Little Big Planet, to a degree in terms of like it being a love letter to like the consoles and the company's history.
And we got a
Um,
couple cameos. I know you and I were writing them down as we went. The ones that I caught were there was Drake, Eco from the Eco Shadow of the Colossus
Games,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Not really a trilogy,
I
but
mean, the rapper. I have the trailer on like the other screen right here, and I'm looking at it. They also had Ape Escape towards the end there.
Journey. There was the lead character from Journey's outfit was shown. Kratos was another one.
Yeah, let's see. I'm going to pause it right here. Like this is a place where they're all like around the Asteroid Boy,
And,
Astrobots
and then there was also like there was more stuff with like the hardware. Like there was like there's like these missions where you're like flying a dual
on like
sense
a
controller,
PlayStation, and
and then there's like like we're like steering a PS5 like it's like a ship or something. It's very cool.
yeah, and they also have and I forget her name because I never actually played these games. The girl from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, Alien.
Um, yes, thank you. I'm gonna get roasted for not
Dude,
playing
I'm
that
about
game.
to roast you
Goodness.
because you're always like, oh, I'm a big PlayStation guy, but you haven't played Horizon or Ghost of Tsushima. I'm like, ew, come on,
Yeah.
step it up, brother. How do you know
I'm
they're
sure.
You haven't even played them. Get
It's
out of here.
I'll get around to it eventually, right?
Yeah, when they
After,
put out the $70 remake, and you're like, now that I can spend $70 on it, I'll get it.
I'll get around to Ghost of Tsushima right after I play Where Winds Meet, that other samurai game they just
You
announced.
get out of here. Go play Ghost. Go play Ghost. It's the best. Oh, it's one of the best open world games ever. I love that game. It's so good. Um,
It's it's on my list, but right now I'm right at the end of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm on chapter
Put it
13 out of
down.
14.
Just toss it out. Go play Ghost.
Throw it on the ground.
But anyway, the other thing that really stuck out to me was like it definitely seems like you said, a lot of this stuff that we liked about that game, right? Like environmental puzzles, like secrets to be found, some really cool, like dynamic looking boss fights. Like there just seems to be so much here to enjoy. Like I'm really, really excited for this one.
It's the best way to describe it is that it just looks like a joy. It made me smile, which is something that
Absolutely.
if your game trailer makes me smile and grin from ear to ear, sold, done. Uh,
So let's
unless like
speaking of which, there was another one that I know you and I responded to really well, and I think I'm very interested in this game, whether or not I'm like totally all in on whether it's for me, but uh we got a really in-depth look about Firewalk's new game, Concord. So this was one that
yes,
they had talked about, I want to say I think it was last year even was maybe when they first like revealed the name of it and that it was in development or whatever. But this is like our first real deep dive on it. We got a bunch of like kind of set dressing for the universe and like the characters and stuff in this like nice like Overwatch, Team Fortress kind of style, trailer, right?
it was so like I got such whiplash with that trailer because the first part where it was like all CG introducing us to the world, I loved that. I was like, if this were a TV show, I'd watch it every week. I'd watch this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I think it
Then
has
they
a
showed
really
the
good vibe. Like
great
a
vibe.
lot of those kinds of like just like experiential character trailers can sometimes feel like very thin or like a little kind of cringy or just like whatever, right? It's like it doesn't really give you a sense of personality, and I thought that this, like, did a really good job of that, and the reason I called out, like, the Overwatch and TF2 stuff is, like, it hit that level for me where it's like, oh, like, I watched this one trailer, and I feel like I can give you information about the dynamics of some of the characters and like, oh, this character has this personality kind of quirk, and this guy, this is the guy with this trait. Like, you got a lot of development in a relatively short amount of time, which is not easy to
Yes.
do. It really conveyed a lot of personality, which you and I definitely were both connecting with that right away.
Yeah, and like the only other thing is like when they showed the gameplay looks good, looks fine. They seem to be doing some really unique, interesting things. What
So
was the
I did want to just clarify for because we're kind of jumping around, right? I don't want to bury the lead on this. So if you're not
oh
aware, right, this one is like a 5v5 first person like hero
fair?
shooter, right? So it's like, and obviously I made the comparison to those two other games. I think you can probably make that assumption, but that's kind of like you said, I guess the whiplash that this created, where it's like you're watching this and it's like this very story heavy, character driven thing. And then it's like, how does that connect to a 5v5 hero shooter? And I think the thing for me that really stood out as being like a unique selling point is that they were talking about how every week there's going to be one of these little like cutscene vignette kind of things that deepens the world and the story, and that, I guess ostensibly, right? Like you'll get to kind of see the story of the world evolve
Unfold.
as
Yeah.
you're just playing the game week to week, which you'd be doing anyway because it looks like it's really fun.
Yeah, like now to be fair, the only like shooter I really got into was like Halo 1. There's not a huge fan of shooters. I played a lot of Overwatch when I was long distance with my fiance,
Mhm.
but after that I kind of stopped playing. So when I saw the gameplay, it doesn't look bad. It looks good, but it might not be for me. But depending on the price point and depending on like how good these like, trailers are that they have every week and the story and how it
Yeah.
evolves, that can be the thing that gets me in. Because
So
I played awful games that had great stories, and
sure.
I stood through the end just for the stories. Not that I think this game's going to be awful, but
I think it looks really fun, frankly.
I think it looks cool. I think it looks cool. But like,
Um,
I'm way more excited for Marvel Rivals than I am this from a gameplay perspective.
Which I do want to talk about that in a minute because I think that one looks pretty interesting as well. I think for me the just I guess to put my kind of flag in how I reacted to this one because y'all know me, right? Like generally speaking, I'm less of a multiplayer games as a service kind of guy, but it's certainly not a hard fast rule, right? Like I was a big Overwatch player in its first couple of years. I was a League of Legends player for like 8 years. Like I get into these, I played Pokemon Unite for a while.
I saw
Like,
to say, remember that?
yeah, and it's like like I played a lot of Halo Infinite when multiplayer was hot. I got back into it just a season ago. Like I, this is not the kind of game I go out of my way for. So like if it's mid, it's like whatever. But when these games hit, like there's a reason that they light the world on fire and everybody gets excited about them. So it's like, I don't know. To me, looking at this and it having that one cutscene that we really responded to and we're like, oh, this is really cool. Um, I think that is a really, really interesting differentiator because I think the thing that always, to me, kind of slows down a game like Overwatch, like, and you look at like how kind of Overwatch had this enormous explosion where people were
Huge.
so into the world and the characters, and it was just like we wanted single player, we wanted comics, we wanted something that was going to advance the story, and they just drip fed it for so long that it ended up kind of like just not feeling as exciting anymore. So to
And
me,
then
the
they killed it with
idea,
Overwatch too, but that's a different
yeah, and then
conversation.
that was like obviously like a really rough pivot. Um, but I think when you look at this, like I'm like, if this game is fun, right? Like if the game moment to moment gameplay, week to week gameplay is engaging and fun enough that I want to keep playing just because it's a fun game, great. The thing that often ends up being the thing that makes these games fall out of people's rotations is that there just isn't enough to keep you on the hook eventually. And it's like, it gets stale. I think if there's a story that you're engaged in and you actually care about every week, might be enough for you to even just log in and play it for a day a week, right? Maybe you're not playing it every day, but it stays in rotation. It stays in the conversation. That's a really interesting path for me. And I think if this game could come out and hit like a similar price point as like Helldivers, where it's like $40, $50 game, it comes out on PC day and date, like interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. The only negative, and it's not negative against the game, but what it has going against it is that there are only so many hours in the game. There in the day, right?
Yep.
There's Fortnite. There's still people playing uh, Overwatch. We got this new game coming out, Marvel Rivals, which I'm a little bit more excited for, but I like this one too.
And obviously
And
there's
it's like,
Destiny, there's multiple
yeah,
like
Helldivers. Like,
yeah.
how much of the pie is left for them to grab
And
at
that's the
that
thing.
point?
That's always the thing with these games, right? And I for years that's been kind of the thing is like eventually this bubble's gonna burst, and you can only you support so many of them. But that's the thing is like Helldivers came out this year and like is
Killed it.
is is a thing, right? So it's like it's not to say that you can't. It's just I think it's way harder than it was 10 years ago, right? Or
Definitely.
8 years ago when Overwatch came out or whatever. So like to me, looking at this, I think it has a lot going for it that a lot of the
Has
other games
potential.
in this style just don't, because it's like they don't have personality, they don't have characters I care about. It's just a gameplay loop, and it's like a gameplay loop that looks like other gameplay loops. Whereas to me, I mean, the fact that Overwatch has so thoroughly like deleted itself from relevance, this could maybe come out and fill a gap and be like, "Hey, you liked Overwatch? Well, this touches on what you liked about that." I think that's
I
it.
wonder, yeah, and this game is also coming to PC, so that will help a lot.
Totally. Yeah. And
Launching it on PC and PS5 at the same time. I really like what they're doing with their PC strategy, by the way, with
doing the
Sony.
day and date with multiplayer games is like clearly something that works. After looking at how successful Helldivers was, it's like that's gotta be the standard moving forward, right?
It
Absolutely.
has to be. Yeah,
So I
so
don't know. Like, I think there's a lot here. Like, there were other characters that were shown in the trailer, but also like in the loadout, and they talked a lot about how there are like all these different crews and factions that are like in the world. It seems like there's a lot of potential to flesh it out and keep building it. And if they've got a roadmap of like seasons worth of content where they're going to tell a story that and that was kind of the vision for like the Last of Us game, right? Was going to be that it was like, oh, there's like this
yeah.
ongoing story that like you're participating in and you get it. So I don't know. I think that this is a strategy we've not quite seen to keep these games sticky. And I think that's very interesting to me because what we
That is
saw, that
interesting.
trailer, we immediately were like, I like this. I like it. I like the characters. I like the world. It's funny. It has like good pace to it. So I'm like,
Personality.
yeah. So I'm like, I don't know. They might have one on their hands here. We'll see.
Yeah, I am rooting for them, and I just looked it up. They have about 16 characters at launch, so like
Okay,
that's
that's
a
pretty good.
respectable
Yeah,
roster for this type of game. Like that's solid.
it's
So
not bad at all. So
yeah,
you,
no,
you you mentioned it twice now. Let's bring it up. Marvel Rivals was the other one we saw. This is that PvP hero shooter type game from NetEase. This game I think is again right if you're familiar with Overwatch or Team Fortress. It's very much the hero shooter arena type experience. I think obviously there's a couple things about it that are very, very unique. Looking at this
yes,
gameplay, like the ways that the characters can interact with the world are super unique. Like Spider-Man can swing. There's obviously a lot of characters that don't have any kind of mobility like that, so they're just running around like a regular runner and gunner.
Doctor
There's some
Strange can
folks that
open
can
up portals from one part of the map to the other. So like
yeah,
the
there's
thing is, this
teleporting,
game,
there's flying. Like it feels very like hectic and chaotic and dynamic, but like in a very attractive, interesting way.
yeah. So like they actually did like a private like alpha or beta on PC.
Yeah.
A close friend of mine, Yinsid, follow him on Twitch. You should. He's great.
Wait, real
Uh,
quick. You just said his name, but are you allowed? Is he allowed to share what he did? Oh, he was streaming it, right?
yeah, yeah, he was
Okay,
streaming
no
it. So
harm then. No
it
harm.
was
Go ahead.
no harm, no harm. It was
Okay,
on Twitch
I
for
don't
like
want to
a
violate
week.
your
So
boy's NDA over here. Let's not get him in trouble.
no, no. Like I would never. um, but yeah, so he played that game for like I think it's like a week or something like that, and he loved it. He said it was so much fun. And like from my perspective, if someone I love and respect says a game's dope and I should keep an eye out on it, and he actually played it for an extended period of time, then That's good enough for me. They announced
Oh, it's
Venom.
good enough for you? Then why the fuck haven't you played Ghost of Tsushima? Huh, Ken? You kidding me? Are you kidding me? So what is it? Do you not love me or do you not respect me? Because that's what you just said. All right. Wow. Wow, dude.
Well, it's good enough for me to eventually give it a shot. I
Oh,
obviously
eventually.
haven't played the game yet. Uh,
Eventually, he says. Okay.
like I'll get around to it eventually.
Get
And
around to it. You don't even like this kind of game, you monster. So okay, here's the two things about it that really stuck out to me, right? Aside from just the variety of character, right? Like seeing the way Spider-Man's movement is like totally different than everyone else. I'm like, that's very cool. Uh,
yes.
that said, it also has a real risk of like being funky. That was one of the things we talked about with like Avengers a couple years ago, where it's like it's kind of hard to have a game with 5 main characters and have them all play differently and be interesting and balanced. And it looks good. It looks good. And the fact that your buddy played it and it played good, I'm like, seems cool. So that obviously is the standout. Aside from that, fully destructible environments, very interesting. I feel like a thing that like in the early like 2010s, it was like every video game was like all environments will be
Fully
destructible.
destructible.
And now it's like we just moved the fuck away from that. And it's like
We moved towards photorealism, which is not nearly as fun, to be
no,
blunt, right?
no, not
Not
at all.
nearly as fun.
And like
It
building
used
and stuff, like crafting things instead. So it's like there are things that are destructible, but it's usually like break this down and then build this. It's like, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. They showed a
yeah.
thing in this where it was, I want to say it was Adam Warlock, who was like firing on this like tower and it just tips over. I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. That's
The other
really
thing,
cool.
like, there was this one scene where Penny Parker's droids were holding like a roof together while the rest of it got crashed apart and fell
So,
down.
so
And
cool. And seeing
and
like those as like interactive elements. So not only are you destroying them, but that you could be like, oh, I'm gonna like hold it together and protect my teammates or let it fall and hit the like that's really cool. Like that's such a dynamic interaction.
and even when it comes to picking your team, there are certain characters that have special combo moves. If two of them are close to each other and on the
Yeah.
same team,
It,
like if
it
you have
actually
Rocket and Groot,
it was like
that could be a strategy.
it was up to a couple too, because there was one where I want to say it was Venom, maybe it was Penny Parker and Spider-Man, and like all three of them it synergized at the same time. So like that's really interesting of how like that could influence team composition. You know, like not
And
only are you like, oh, I'll grab, because it's like that was like a thing in Overwatch. It's like I'll play tank, I'll play healer, I'll play DPS. I like the idea of it being like, let's run all Spider-Man so we can take advantage of this thing, or like let's run, you guys run these two and
this
we'll run these
combination.
two. Yeah, like that's very interesting. Those are like
And
little things that I think could add a insane amount of depth, especially if the game sticks around for a couple years.
yeah, and the thing with Marvel, it's like they have endless opportunities for new characters that they can pull from, like
Yeah.
over 100. I feel like over 100 years at this point. And even just looking at the cast that they got thus far, they got the popular ones, like you got your Iron Man, you got your Spider-Man, Black Panther, etc. But then they also have some like the less well-known ones. Like, have you ever heard of Luna Snow? They have Penny Parker up in here.
Those are some
They
deep
have
cuts.
Magic. So they're not just doing the mainstream ones; they're
Nice.
doing
That's
like a
cool.
good mixture, and that
Magic's a cool
makes
one.
it feel kind of fresh to me.
Yeah, I mean,
So, like,
even just looking at like the characters that they highlighted in this video, like one of them was Adam Warlock, who is not a super popular character, right? Like if you're a cosmic Marvel fan, you know Adam Warlock. He was teased at the end of an MCU movie. He's not a majorly
well, he was in
prominent.
Guardians 3, to
Right.
be fair. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Truth
So,
be told, I haven't seen Guardians 3 yet. So
uh, uh, neither have
spoilers
I.
for this movie from 2 years ago that I should have seen.
Yeah, no, well, it's not really a spoiler. It's he's in the trailer. But they also have the Punisher up in this bitch. Like, yo,
Yeah.
listen, I'm about it. I'm about it.
Well, and again, I like how different all those characters are, right? Like it's like the way that Storm fights, right, is obviously totally different than the way the Punisher fights. So it's like it really speaks to how much variety in the gameplay seemingly there's going to be.
Yeah, and another thing is that I learned from the beta or the alpha, or whatever they called it. They have so many different costumes because they have so much lore to pull from.
Yeah, that
Like,
was
you
one of
were
the things
talking
they
about-
showed here was like it was a PS5 exclusive skin that you could get as like a pre-order or whatever. So it's like going to be interesting to see how that plays into it too.
yeah, the Scarlet Spider, and I think it's going to be a free to play like game. You get the season pass, etc. I can see myself really getting into this. Like, I could talk about this game for a while, so I want to, keep it moving a little bit. But
Yeah, but I'm with you though. This one really stuck out to me as well. I think I'm definitely like, I don't know. This is one I could see having staying power because it looks again very dynamic and interesting, and it has the benefit of obviously having a built-in IP with Marvel, right?
yeah,
Obviously,
immediate fan base.
yeah, like there's people who will check it out on that basis alone, which is obviously a helpful thing in this day and age. So let's jump around to some of the smaller announcements. One of the other ones, I mean, not to discredit, obviously, this is a big deal for some people, but we
Yeah,
got the reveal of Dynasty Warriors Origins, which is the first new like Dynasty Warriors proper in quite some time, if memory serves. I don't know if you can fact check that one for me, but the last
it's.
the
I
last
heard
couple
the last one wasn't good, so
the,
like hopefully this will return to form.
I feel like the last couple games that they've turned in have mostly been like the IP ones. It's been like they did like the Hyrule Warriors, they did Fire Emblem Warriors, right? I think it's been a minute since there's been a proper Dynasty Warriors game.
Yeah, so the last main one was in 2018, but to be fair, in 2020 they did like a definitive edition with extra content.
I mean, still, that's 4
But
years. It's quite a bit of time since the last proper one, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, I
and
guess
like
not so much for AAA development these days, but these games have
yep,
always been on
fair.
a slightly different kind of timeline.
Yeah, like well, there was a 5 year gap between 8 and 9. Like that was the biggest
There
gap.
you go.
Um, but I digress.
Cool
It's
announcement either way, right?
cool announcement. If you're
Uh,
into it, you're into it. Good
I'm
for
not a
you.
big Muso guy, but a lot of people are. So it's definitely, it's a
The,
it's a
the
pretty cool one.
the only Muso game I really got into was Persona 5 Strikers. That game was baller. If you haven't played it, you should. I got the plat. Very,
I
very good.
could not finish it because I do not like Musos, but I love Persona
Uh
5 and I really want to because I liked the story, but man. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about some of the there was two old PlayStation games, like legacy titles that are getting ports. We'll touch on those real quick because
clean
there's
up.
not a ton of
Yeah.
news about them. God of War Ragnarok coming to PC. They threw out a lot of specs I didn't get to write down quickly enough, but there's ultra wide
Ultra unlocked
support.
frame rate.
Yeah,
Unlocked frame
DLC
rate. DSL
included.
support.
Everything
If you
that
haven't played it and you're a PC gamer, this is great news for you. If you have a PlayStation 5 and you haven't played it yet, it's good for those people. I'm excited to see what the mod community does to that game.
for sure, and I mean,
They're gonna
it's
have
one
a
of those
field
things
day.
where like we've talked about it time and time again on like the Steam Deck podcast and stuff, where it's like there are a lot of people that are like they're PC only, so this will be the only way that they
Yo,
would play it.
God
So
of War on the Steam Deck, though. I just thought about that.
that's gonna be the thing
That's actually gonna
because
be fresh.
God
Yeah,
of War
fair.
proper runs real well on that thing, so hopefully this one can figure out a Steam Deck loadout as well. But I mean, it should be able to. It ran on PS4,
Yeah.
so September 19th. Coming right around the corner. Pre-orders are available now. This is a really hype one. Very cool to see. Similarly, Until Dawn is that was another one we knew was getting an update. It's coming to PC and PS5. This was the first kind of more extended look we got at its
Looks
updated
great.
visuals.
Great
Looks
cleanup.
beautiful. It's supposed to come out in the fall of this year. Can't wait. Hope it's available for Halloween.
Yeah. No, they're not going to miss that money cow that is releasing this game on Halloween. That would be such a huge waste of
You hope.
opportunity. I would be shook.
So
But
there was a couple bits of PSVR 2 information as well. I wanted to touch on this one because I know they
do we
advertised.
have to?
We'll just do a quick. They were talking about like that they were gonna talk about PSVR 2 stuff. But what they really had to show was not a ton.
It's
I
like
think
2 or 3 games, maybe tops.
it was two. I only think I have two down.
So it
One of
was
them,
Alien was one of them,
right, and
right?
that was like nothing. That was like it's apparently
Nothing.
coming out in 2024. It's called Alien Rogue Incursion. Really, all they showed us was a jump scare involving the xenomorph. Aside from that, there really wasn't very much to show.
What was
Um,
the other one? Was it Skydance Behemoth? I
Skydance
think it
and
was.
Behemoth, and this one I think is actually a big deal if you're a VR person because this is from the team that made Walking Dead: Saints and Sinners, which is obviously kind of one of the more successful VR games of the last couple years. It's like a full-fledged swords and sorcery game, full story, combat. You got some poison in your veins from some kind of evil spell. You got to kill a bunch of guys with a bunch of weapons to get it out, I guess. But it looks cool. I mean, again, if you're a VR person, I think this is the type of game you're probably looking forward to, where it's like there's big boss fights. There's dozens of different weapons that they showed you could use. You can, have some pretty dynamic combat there. So
I'm curious, is there anything that Sony could release to make you buy a PlayStation VR 2 headset?
no, 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 definitely not. I'm just not a VR person though. Like
Fair.
I've accepted a long time ago that I think the most exciting applications of VR technology are probably not for video games, and if they are, it's probably not home consumer tech. It's like I think I could see the Disneys and Universals and whatnots of the world using those to make immersive experiences in like a controlled
Yeah.
environment. But I think the idea that we're going to get to a point where there are VR titles that you can play in your living room that are as deep and dynamic and interesting as like a standard video game, I don't think there's been any proof that that's the case. And I think even if it's possible, the fact that VR is such niche consumer tech has scared a lot of people away from development. So now
And the
it's
fact
like,
that it's so expensive to get into
yeah,
as well, like
and
that's
to
the
make a
other thing.
game in VR is expensive, and it takes a specialized skill set, and it's just I don't know. I think it's too niche right now, and I think we're far away from a point where it isn't. And for me, like I came to the conclusion when I bought my first VR headset that even if VR is cool, it's not a better way to spend time than playing a quote unquote regular
Just looking
video
at a
game.
screen, yeah.
Yeah, it just isn't. So if I only have a finite amount of time to play games, I want to play stuff that's deeper and more you know, rewarding than something that just feels like kind of a throwaway experience.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. But what else is there? So
There's a
like,
couple other smaller things, like not really anything too huge because like a lot of it is stuff that like we've seen other places or we've heard about. We got a deeper
yeah,
dive on the Silent Hill 2 remake, which is looking pretty good.
I'm pessimistic on that one, and I'm an optimist, so that says something. I just have no faith in Konami.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I've kind of taken the path of with Konami of like show me, right? Like they've announced this release, they're going to do the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, like, obviously Konami's earned a bad rap, but if they're going to make an earnest effort to get back into games, then I'm going to judge them based on what they put out, not
Yeah, like I'm not gonna
the
just
decisions
say
of
it's
the
gonna be trash, but like,
and that's the thing. I understand your reservations. It's also easy for me to say that as somebody with no horse in the race, right? I'm not a Silent Hill fan. I'm not a Metal Gear fan. I want to see those IP come back and thrive because people really care
can you
about them.
explain to me why you're not a Metal Gear fan?
Well, I was a child when they came out, and
So was I.
by the
I played it when I
time
was a little older.
by the time I tried to play them, I was a little bit like, I don't know.
Have you been spoiled about the story? Because it's
No,
actually one of the greatest stories of all time. It's like
here's my
video
thing.
game movie period. It's one of the greatest stories of all time.
Here's my thing. That might be true, but, from the outside looking in, it has really heavy, like, Kingdom Hearts energy, and I like Kingdom Hearts, right? Let's preface that.
Hey yo,
But, like
listen.
but, dude, I'm like, you it's really hard for me to be like and again, it's, like, this is not an opinion I like sharing because I respect Kojima. I know he's one of the great auteurs of video games. I'm not trying to take anything away from the guy who has made it enough to make weird shit. I love that about him. And I think his shit is, like, maybe a little too weird. I feel like he needs an editor to, like, rein him in a little bit sometimes. Because here's my thing. You're like, "Oh, it's the greatest story of all time." And I'm like, "Yeah, but, like, wasn't the last game in the franchise not finished? And one of the main characters is a lady in a tiny string bikini, and he's like, "Once you know the real explanation, it'll totally" and it's like she breathes through her skin or something. It's like, "Come on, bro. I don't know."
Hey yo, listen. You should at least play the first four.
I
That's a tall order, but
I will and that's the thing too is, like,
I want you to get started. You'll want to
it's a
keep
gap,
going.
and I want to. I would love to experience a story and give it an earnest shot, and it's such an uphill battle to do that because it's like, damn, I gotta play, like, 5 games, several of which are, like, only recently playable on modern hardware. It's like, I don't know. One of these days, maybe. Maybe we'll make it like a stream or something, and you can shepherd me through it.
Yeah, it's like the first Metal Gear Solid game. Story wise, has aged great. Graphics wise, but story wise, it's peak and it's really fun gameplay. It's only about 12 hours. Like it's not like a
That's not so
terribly
bad.
long commitment.
We
I
could
like
make that happen maybe.
Yeah, like the only
Here's the
ones that are
thing,
really long are 4 and 5.
if the folks want it, let us know, and maybe we'll make an event out of it, and Ken and I can stream them or something.
I'll
Because
play
that's the
if
thing
you
I've been
play Metal
wanting to
Gear.
do. I've been wanting to come up with some kind of backlog show where there's like a reason to go play these old ass games, and then like do some kind of book club or something. Because it's just like the reality of me being able to find the time to play 5 games that are extreme, some of which are extremely old, just for fun, like just because, is like very unlikely, just because it's
Listen, turn it into a series. I'd watch it.
you got to be on
That's
it. I'm
great.
not doing this shit by myself.
Okay, okay, yo, we'll figure it out. We'll do that, and then we'll do Ghost of Tsushima.
I love it. All right, so another one that's like not quite my jam, but is definitely like one that I know
A
people.
lot of people's jam. I know where you're going with this.
Monster Hunter Wilds, right? Looks really good.
Yeah,
I think
looks great.
he did leave me with some questions though, because I think it seemed to me like there was perhaps a more involved story than what I've come to expect from like World and some of the older titles. I know that the Switch titles have kind of more of an emphasis on story, so I don't know if maybe that's kind of where we're going, but I kind of got the impression that there were NPCs and that some of those characters in the cutscenes were like supporting characters if you were playing it by yourself. Because a lot of the footage showed one person playing, whereas obviously normally it's a multiplayer affair and like all of the gameplay is really like you going out and hunting with friends. That could have just been for the sake of the trailer. So that's a question I have, not a criticism, or it's just an observation of like, are they showing
Yeah,
that maybe there's a more story oriented, like single player way to play this one, and then the multiplayer gameplay that we know and love is the other way to play? That would be interesting. I could see that maybe being an inroad for people that you know um don't have like a regular gaming group but have like wanted to check out what Monster Hunter is all about.
yeah. It's like I tried to get into Monster Hunter back in college, where all of my roommates were playing Monster Hunter,
Yep.
and I still just couldn't vibe with it. So it's not my jam, but I know it's a huge deal. It looks good. I'm sure it's going to be great.
I
Um,
will say,
but for
like,
them,
as someone who played World and like it wasn't for me, I think the combat looks really good. Like it looks like they learned
it looks
from
smooth.
some
Yeah.
of the like more action oriented stuff that they played with in the Switch titles, which I really wish I remembered the name of. I want to say it's Rise, but maybe that's wrong. Um, but I know that those have kind of like that more like actiony, like parrying. And like there was like a scene where it was like a trio of these big monsters surrounding the character, and then like he goes and like knocks it and it like falls back dynamically. And I was like, yeah, like it looks less spongy than I remember World being, where there would be those animations where I'm like unloading my big attack and I'm just like hitting this monster's leg and it's like not reacting, it's like whatever.
Yeah, it's more reactive. The game looks beautiful too. Like
Really
the graphics on
nice.
this thing look really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Um, I might try to give it a shot. Like maybe this is the one that gets me into the series.
I don't think
Um,
that'll be the case for me. And I had that same moment where I'm like, maybe, which is good enough. I think to me, what that says is at the very least, very good trailer, right? Very well
yeah,
marketed game that even if I don't think I'm going to like it, I'm like, damn, it looks fun though. Like, I feel like I'm missing out by not wanting to play it, which is that's where you want to be. That's great.
yeah. Like
Speaking of which,
I'll play the demo.
yeah, I'm with you there. Speaking of which, Path of Exile 2, another one that looks really good. If you're not familiar with Path of Exile, it's like a top-down kind of Diablo-esque, maybe like dungeon crawler, hack and slash kind
Ouch.
of game.
Co-op. Let's go.
Couch
Love it.
co-op,
Love to see it.
cross-play, cross-progression. The holy triumvirate. Love it. Looks great. Looks like, again, if this is your kind of game, I think you'll fuck with this. If you are looking for a co-op, cross-play kind of game to play with a friend or maybe like a partner or whatever, this looks tight. It looks really good. Not super my kind of game usually, but I will say like moment to moment looks really, really sharp. Animations are really good. Tons of models on screen, not looking like it's chugging. Looks like a fun one.
Yeah, no. That one is firmly in the if I get around to it category, but a fun one, or if I need to switch it up. I've
Yeah.
been neck deep in RPGs.
Yeah. I hear you. That's kind of where I am right now.
Let's see.
Um,
Did we talk about until? Oh no. Okay, so we talked about
Talked
until
about Until
dawn.
Dawn.
Let's
I think
see.
there's only three more that we got to touch on. One of them is one that you talked about in passing, which is Where Winds Meet. Not really much information here other than that it's like another samurai action adventure kind of game. It
Not
seems,
Ghost of Tsushima.
yeah, and it's like clearly this is what happened, right? Ghost came out and set the world on fire, and now there's like all these studios that were like, shit, we should make a cool dynamic samurai game. and
And
now
now they're all coming out.
we're gonna get a shitload of them. Yeah, so there's this one. I mean, it looks cool, but it was mostly a cinematic trailer, so it's kind of hard to say whether or not it's something I'm interested in. And then the other one was Ballad of Antara, which was another
That game
like
looked kind of cool.
action adventure. It looks like kind of like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta kind of vibe, maybe.
I got more of a Dark Souls vibe from
Okay,
that one,
sure.
actually.
I thought it had that kind of like fast paced, like like hack and slashy vibe to it, but
I think it
I
might
can
have been
see
the way
that.
it was cut up. Like, let me pull
Yeah.
open that trailer again.
Maybe it's more apt to say it's like Bloodborne then, where it's got a little of that,
Bloodborne is a
but
good
it's still
comparison.
that more aggressive kind of combat, but it looks pretty cool. You play like it's like an edgelord fantasy anime vibe. Looked like there were a couple playable characters. There was like a guy who's like carrying a young girl on his back with a sword. There's like a woman with a bow. There's like a big dude with an axe. Seems like maybe those are your three playable characters. Um, Again, not much to go on, but it made an impression.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it now. They just lots of cuts. And even if that is gameplay, when it's cut up like that, it's hard to get a real good pulse on it.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's inoffensive. It's a good way to put it. Like,
Last game I want to talk about. Normally I'd skip this one, but I want to call it out because I think this was maybe the worst trailer I've ever seen, and that's not like speaking to like my opinion about the game at all. But it was Infinity Nikki, which is a
it's
game in
good music.
yeah, it had a cool track. But it was like a bunch of anime girls and these cute little
Cute
chibi
cats.
like cat guys, and they showed what looked like scenes where you were like going through an inventory and like picking different outfits, but then they also showed parts where you're taking
Playing as the
photos,
cat
and then you're
and
playing as the cat and doing some 3D platforming, and then they showed a thing where you were playing as the girl, I think without the cat, and there was like some kind of weird boss monster looking thing,
it was a
and
little
then
all over the place.
almost the entire rest of it was stuff about the photography again. So I'm like, I have no fucking idea what this game is. And there was a point where you were like, so is this kind of like we got like maybe like a slice of life, like Animal Crossing thing mixed with some platforming? And I was like, I don't know, because like
Mixed with Pokemon Snap lore.
they keep showing things that feel like it's like, is this the game? And then it's like cameras, cameras, cameras. And I'm like, is that the game? Like, I don't really know. I really don't know. And like, as somebody who is like, I would say more uh pro cute and weird and girly stuff than a lot of people, I left this just being like, I have no fucking idea what this is at all. And then they're like, by the way, beta testing in Q3 was how they ended it. And it's like,
Yeah, beta testing. Like, so is this like a live service type
but
game? Is
also,
this like a
but again, to be like beta testing in Q3 is like it's so like corporate and sterile and like a weird way to say that, and it's just like,
after such a whimsical trailer?
yeah, it's just like,
Um,
what is the identity of this thing? And like, granted, we literally as soon as that ended, we jumped right on this. I know that there's a PlayStation blog that goes up after every one of these that gives more context. So it's possible that we, potentially have more information about this game now.
Actually, I'm gonna look this up right now.
But
Give me a
but
few
point
seconds.
being, trailers need to convey information, and this just simply like left me baffled.
All right, so
Not even cold, not even angry. Just I was like, what the fuck am I looking at?
I need to read this description to you. This is the title from the PlayStation blog: Infinity Nikki, an open world dress up adventure. That's how it's
They
described.
literally showed one screen that had anything to do with dress ups. That's fucking nuts. And that's the thing is, I thought that was a mechanic, and then they never showed it again. So I was like, oh, maybe that's
I
just the
see.
inventory. Like, what the?
Okay, so she switches outfits to get different abilities, like a floating outfit, a gliding outfit,
Okay,
shrinking outfit.
that's something that
That's
really could have been more clearly conveyed.
yeah. Um, just seven challenging adventures. This seems like the type of
Does
game
it
a
even
camper
mention the
like.
photos? Because
Does it
that
have
was like
anything?
the most prominent thing was like showing photograph clicking and stuff. And I'm like, is
Okay,
that
so
not the point of the
the
game?
cat uh is a camera. Oh, okay, no, they have a camera.
The
So yeah, they
cat,
do have a little something with the cameras there. I don't really get it. It's about dressing up and
but it
relaxing
doesn't
and going on
mention that. It doesn't
adventures.
mention taking photos as one of the core
It
mechanics.
does.
Okay.
It mentions it just like briefly, just like take gorgeous photos on the landscape. But like so many games have photo modes these days. It's kind of weird that. That's all they have about it. It's weird. I think it'd be fun enough. You are right. They could
I
have done a better
genuinely
job.
have no idea whether it's going to be fun or not. That's my whole point. Is my judgment of this trailer is literally zero judgment about the content or quality of Infinity Nikki. I walked away from this being like, that was a fucking baffling trailer, and it left me with so many questions and so few answers. And like,
But you're just like, I remember we were watching it together, right? And you were just sitting there seething, like, what is this? And I'm just like,
you're just dancing, and it's like I'm just so confused by every choice that was made in the marketing of this. But whatever, fine.
I said no thoughts, just vibes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And maybe that was all they wanted to do, was to just pique your interest and be like, oh, like if the visual and the style of this picks out at you, you'll go do that deeper dive. Fair enough, I guess. But like, as somebody
Yeah,
who's watched so many video game trailers, like, don't get me wrong, I'll give it this. It was not the worst. I'm taking it back immediately. Not the worst trailer I've ever seen, because the worst trailer ever is one that leaves no impression and you just like walk away from it like not even remembering it.
true.
This made an impression. I don't know that it was the right impression or a good impression, but I won't forget it. So,
Yeah, as soon as we finish this episode, I'm going to show that trailer to my fiance, and I'll let you know what she thinks. Because the aesthetic is right up her alley.
I love. She's
And
like, "This is my game of the year. This is my most anticipated game."
she was like, "Ooh, this is like an adventure photography, cute cat, Animal Crossing, dress up adventure, John." I'm like,
Fair enough.
yes.
Fair enough. And that's the thing. I like a lot of those genres. So like, I feel like you got to tell me what the game is a little bit, but whatever. Maybe that's just me. If
Yeah.
you guys thought that Infinity Nikki was the best game that was shown today, make sure you let us know in the comments down below. And of course, let us
So
know
we can
about.
block you.
No. We take all kinds. It's fine. I won't judge you. But Ken will. Ken will judge you. So
Yeah.
my question to you, dear viewer, is what did you think of today's state of play? Was it a good presentation? Was it a mid presentation? Are you excited about games like Astrobot and what was that other one called? Concord? Are you excited about games like that? Or did you feel like this was lacking some of the heavy hitters that you were hoping for? I know personally, um, I do feel like this was a very good state of play. I don't know that it necessarily crossed into the threshold of what we've come to expect from PlayStation Presents in the past, right? Where it's like there was that midsection that felt a little soft. There was obviously no kind of updates on, you know, games from some of their bigger teams. Like, I think that's maybe what we're missing to push this over into that upper
Real,
echelon.
real quick, and it's funny you say that because the presentation started off with not one, but two countdowns. So I was like, oh, we're about to get it.
That was really weird. Yeah. They had a whole 10, 9, 8, and then it was like, okay, 28 more seconds. Like, what? Okay. Fair
It's like,
enough.
okay.
It's like I don't walk away from this like cold. I think this is a solid presentation. I think most people could probably walk away with something that they were excited about. And it is a bummer to not walk away from a PlayStation event feeling like, damn, like that used to be their thing. And it's felt like the last couple of years, like they were maybe like holding their cards close to their chest, whatever. I wanted a little bit more. I did want like a Ghost of Tsushima 2 trailer. Even if it's far away. I want the tease. I want to know what's coming next. And it feels like they're moving away from that, right? Everything we saw here today was either this year or next year or, undated, I guess.
So, question: do you think we're going to get another PlayStation Direct or State of Play before the holiday season? Like, or do you think,
We could, but I
or
think
are
what
they
else
just
what
going to
else did we
save it?
talk about at this point, right?
The next, like, PlayStation 5 Pro. That's
Yeah.
heavily rumored, but let's be real, it's most likely real based on like the quantity of
That's
leaks.
not the kind of thing they're probably going to do in a state of play, though, right? They're probably going to do that in like a press release that goes out to all the outlets and everybody writes about it and it goes up on Twitter and that's that. I feel
Eh,
like could you? Maybe. I don't think so, though. I think this is probably the last you'll hear from PlayStation for the year in terms of big announcements. And I mean, I think that's fine. Obviously, this wasn't like the hottest, sexiest event, but like Astrobot to me was enough
Astro
of a big
Box
takeaway
is
that
so good. I
I'm
can't wait.
so excited to have that to look forward to that I have to walk away from this one saying it was at least good, right? It
Yeah,
hit that mark.
it was a good direct. It checked off a lot of boxes. Not everything's for us, but I felt like there was something there for everybody, if that
Yeah,
makes
I
sense.
think broadly anyway.
Broadly, except for like I think the only thing missing is like a strong RPG game that's missing. I guess
Which
is Monster Hunter technically RPG? Like, yeah,
it's
like
one of the
J
RPG elements,
traditional.
right? Which is it's not really the same thing, but
Yeah, the only thing missing from this was like a traditional RPG presence. You add that to the list, and then it kind of checked off everything. VR, cutesy game, indie
I think
platformer. It had a little bit of everything.
yeah, I think PlayStation never has the indie representation that the other 2 have, which I think is not necessarily to their benefit. I think, like, having, like,
Yeah,
a hot looking, like, indie title that you hadn't seen elsewhere would have been a nice way to kinda elevate this even a little bit more, but again, it's like we're criticizing a show that I think by and large was pretty good and had good
yeah,
pacing and everything. State of Play's it's a low bar, but I think this definitely crossed it to be one of the better ones, but
better ones. Yeah,
yeah, but
no Silk Song.
what we really want is a PlayStation Presents, and that's, I think, where this ends up feeling maybe disappointing to some, but, I walked away thinking it was a pretty good show, so
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Let me put it this way: that like 30, 35 minute presentation flew by, and that says something.
yes. Yeah, it definitely
A
even the
little
stuff
draggy
I
in the
was
middle, but that's it.
yeah, it never felt like a slog though, which I think is,
Yeah,
that's the bar you wanna clear because not every game is gonna appeal to everybody, and you gotta accept that, if you walk away from a presentation with 2 or 3 games that you're excited about, it's a good presentation. So,
exactly.
I think
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, final rankings.
it if we're doing like a hard 10 scale, I'm inclined to say it's probably a 7, right? It's like more on the average side. If we're doing like a sliding scale, I'd say it's probably like high 7, low 8, where it's like, I wouldn't say that it is like squarely good, but on like an 8-point scale that allows for like a low 8 versus a high 8, I think it glides into that for me because I'm so into Astro that that's the big headline,
Yeah, like
which
that
is,
gave it an extra point or two out the gate.
yeah, that's where I'm at. How about you?
Yeah, probably right around there, like like a 79 out of
Yeah, yeah,
100.
I think that's, like, probably, like, 75 to 80 range is where I'm thinking.
It was respectable.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
at least have two. One thing that I didn't know about that I'm actively looking forward to in a huge way. So like that's they got me on least Astrobot, if nothing else.
I walked away
And
with at least 3 games I'm very interested in, so I think that's solid.
yeah, and I was also already interested in like Marvel Rivals and things like that. But as far as new games,
Yeah.
Astrobot.
Like, that was one
But
that wasn't really on my radar, like, I was aware of it, but I hadn't seen gameplay of it, and seeing that, I was like,
really,
"Ooh, okay, alright,
yeah, no, that
alright,
game's dope. That game's
looks good."
dope.
So, let us know in the comments down below. Write into us all the ways that you can. You can find us at flipscreen.games. That's going to be where you'll find all the places we are all over the web. However you choose to get involved and show your support. Thank you for tuning in to this very special episode of the Flipscreen Games podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Ken. We'll see ya probably on Sunday, right? More Summer Games Fest. Oh, no, wait. That's next week.
Wait,
We'll see you next week.